For those that aren't familiar, Christopher Rufo, I don't want to say what you exactly specialize in, but you definitely do cover critical race theory, which is like this wokeness stuff. So I think you might have a lot of insights into the motivations of at least some of the rioters and some of the things they've been protesting and saying, as well as the actions taken by the president. I don't know if you want to just mention a bit about what you do. And
yeah, I will. And really to your point about the unrest, I was in D.C. all day today. I was meeting at the White House, and I went out to Georgetown last night. And throughout the city, businesses are now boarding up all their windows. They're putting up fencing. They're putting up barriers. They're putting up fortifications. The kind of feeling just walking through the city is that things are going to pop off with almost 100% degree of certainty. And my thought is that, a lot of these folks are looking for any kind of rationale for going out in the streets. So I think that it's very likely to get ugly, to get feisty
everywhere
on the election night.
And tomorrow's a full moon.
Oh no!
Oh, dude!
Of course it is.
Oh my God!
Pulls all tides.
Hold on,
Bodies are water.
Yeah. No, but we were just driving back because we're trying to get set up for this. We're doing this big party. We're gonna have a bunch of people here, and we're in the middle of nowhere, elevated, surrounded by a bunch of other armed residents. It's a really interesting property, and we're coming back, and I'm looking at the moon, and it is ominous.
It's big, man. I was driving up here and saying like, whoa, I almost hit 3 deer on the way in here. Yeah. I was like, there's some vibes happening. Yeah.
For real. Yeah. Dude, people don't, you want to know some true facts? More crime is committed during full moons.
Yeah.
Do you know that?
Dude, the tides,
No,
the moon I heard
hold
used to
on.
be closer to the earth and would have this real oval shape going around the earth, and it would pull the tides like hundreds of feet in the air.
That was a long time ago.
Really
but
long time ago.
There's a really simple reason why more crime is committed during a full moon.
Light?
It's brighter out.
Yeah.
It's like you can see. Like, I don't know if you've ever gone to the middle of nowhere. You know what's really, really cool is when, because I grew up in Chicago, we would go to the lake during a new moon, and it was the scariest thing. You look out into the lake, and it was a void. Like, you couldn't see anything. You're
That's
like, whoa. But you hear the water, and like, that's the air. You fall, and you die.
Yeah.
During a full moon, you can see everything. It's like reflecting. So we got a full moon, and it's going to be a Saturday night full moon. Just before the election,
Halloween,
while these riots are going off on Halloween.
2020.
2020.
2020 it doesn't disappoint.
It does not, man.
Yeah. So I guess look, I wanted to open it with this big update on what's going on with Kyle Rittenhouse. It's not definitive of anything particularly, but it does have a lot to do with the unrest we're seeing, what's going to happen. We got the election coming up, and there's a lot of stuff to talk about in this. I don't know if they're still doing it, but I don't know if you heard this. You mentioned they're boarding things up. Did you hear that Walmart was taking the guns off the shelves and hiding the ammo?
Yeah, I didn't hear that, but it makes a lot of sense. I mean, people are in kind of siege mentality. I even heard a friend said there's a shortage of toilet paper again.
Yeah, there is.
Which is also weird. It's like, when did this become the panic buying thing? If you want to survive, I feel like toilet paper is very far down on the list.
Right?
Yeah.
Did you see you see what's going on in Paris?
I've seen a little bit of it, yeah.
Like tens of thousands of cars flooding the highways, all gridlocked for miles. Yeah. Like, they're gridlocked because when a traffic jam is so big, no car can move.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever played that game. It's called Gridlock, where you have street and all the cars, and you got to move the car to like figure out how to break the gridlock.
Oh.
But there's like, when you have a car in every direction going, up, down, left, right, or north, south, east, west, they all block each other. And so none of the cars can move. In Paris, they're doing new draconian lockdowns where you have to have your papers if you want to go outside, proving you have a right to go outside. This is crazy. So people jump in their cars and they take off, trying to flee the city. Stores are getting raided once again. It's like, just like it was back in March, it's happening again. And it's a full moon, it's Halloween, it's election night.
Lydia's not wearing her mask.
It's true. Oh my gosh. I'm not. You're right.
Yeah.
Oh, Chris,
I wonder if
on.
this is like the end of the simulation. It's it, the culmination.
It's the best part, that's for sure.
I love it.
We were just hanging out. Are you familiar with simulation theory?
Like the singularity, like Ray Kurzweil, or
like
the Matrix.
Our universe is a simulation of some sort.
Yeah.
We were just hanging out, and I was like, what if we're in this simulation, and everything we're doing feels like the most important thing ever, and there's like Donald Trump as president, and there's a crime wave and riots, and things are exploding, and then they're like arming the nukes, and the dictators are getting ready, And the guys running the simulation are actually just tracking like the Peruvian dung beetle's mating cycle. And so like we're in this simulation, but they're just like sitting at a computer being like, hey, did you see that in the simulation? Donald Trump was president? Oh, did you look at that? Anyway, look at the dung beetles. They're mating this season.
Great,
Right?
yeah.
Like
They
we're
have a completely different kind of thought process and brain. Their interests are misaligned with ours. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
like we
possible.
think we're important. We have
possible.
nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
It's all about those
So-
dung beetles.
Yeah, man,
possible.
it's crazy to see all this stuff like starting to ignite again. Because I'll tell you, man, usually on Fridays, news is slow and boring.
Yeah.
You know, and then all of a sudden today it was just like, whoa, there's riots across Europe because of COVID lockdown stuff, toilet paper shortages again. Yeah, now we got DC boarding up, National Guard deployed in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Riots in New York.
Yeah,
And now something just happened in, where did it happen? We just had another shooting of some guy.
Seriously?
I saw it on Twitter.
Man, I took a nap, guys. Give me a break.
It was a dude who was shooting at cops, and the cops killed him. And now there's, rioters coming out Friday night too. So
Oh man.
Dude.
yeah,
Wild.
man. So let's just do this. You went on Fox News, and you called on the president to ban critical race theory.
Yeah,
Is that what happened?
That's how it happened, and it was a really a kind of a process. And I did a number of stories on critical race theory in government agencies. So the first one was in Seattle, where the Seattle Office of Civil Rights, ironically enough, was hosting racially segregated diversity trainings, and the training for white employees was called Interrupting Whiteness and Internalized Racial Superiority. So they would have white employees come in. They would be kind of forced to stand to say, I'm Karen. I'm a she, her. I'm white, and then essentially admit and then deconstruct their complicity in white supremacy.
Struggle sessions.
Struggle sessions. I mean, it had all the documentation and the charts and the graphs and objectivity is racist and et cetera, et cetera. And I kind of got my hands on these documents through a public records request, and I said, this is crazy, but it's outside of my normal field of expertise, which for the last 2 years has been poverty, homelessness, addiction, and urban disorder. But I said, you know what? I'm going to throw this up on Twitter, where I'm just kind of using my Twitter account, kind of starting, and I'll see what happens. And then it's just boom. So then I write an article about it in City Journal, and I think it went to the New York Post. And then I started just getting deluged with leakers and whistleblowers from everywhere in the government. All of a sudden, my inbox is just like, I'm in the Treasury Department, I'm in the FBI, I'm in the IRS, I'm in the, the EPA, I'm in the Justice Department, and they're doing the same stuff. And that's the moment I said, I've stumbled on something
That's
big
important.
and something that is happening to a lot of people. And people are saying, hey, look, we can't oppose this. I can't get up and say, I think this is wrong. I'll get crucified. I'll get retaliated against. I'll lose my job. I'll get, kind of turned into a pariah at the office. But I really am deeply upset about this, and it's wrong, and it's a waste of money. So then I just did story after story after story, and just, worked up the media chain. Dropped it on Twitter first, linked to an article in City Journal or the New York Post or another publication. And then from there, booked on Laura Ingraham, booked on Tucker.
Wow.
And after I did that process 4 or 5 times, I'd created enough of an evidence base where it's persuasive that this is happening in many places. And then Tucker's producer called me and he said, hey, look, I want you to do the monologue with Tucker Carlson tonight and just lay it out.
Wow.
And I said, that's cool. Let's do it.
Sounds
And
awesome.
he says, all right, you got 2 hours. Write the monologue that you want to do. Tucker will set you up and then do it. And I said, all right, cool. So I'm driving up to the studio, and all right, cool. Read it off the teleprompter, and then we'll do it. And then I get a call. They say, we couldn't book a teleprompter.
Oh, man.
And I said, okay. And he said, you're just going to have to just wing it. You have
Oh, snap.
you have 3.5 minutes. You just have to vibe on it. And you're in a dark room. There's lights. You
Yeah.
don't see him. You just hear him in a little earpiece. And then I said, all right, I got this. Let's do it. And started feeling those butterflies a little bit. And then Tucker sets it up beautifully. And then I honestly, I just kind of blacked out. I just got into the flow of it and just spitfire, just rattled it out, outlined the research, quoted the best that I could, kind of paraphrasing what happened. And then at the very end, something I had rehearsed and on the kind of riding in my truck on the way up to Seattle, I said, And then I call on the president of the United States to immediately issue an executive order abolishing critical race theory in the federal government. I just said, what the hell, go for it,
Yeah.
like do it. And then could finish up the segment. And I just had an intuition, a feeling. I said, like, this hit, like this, like I, pulling back from 50 yards and hit the target.
And it worked.
And it worked. And then the next morning, about 7 a.m., I'm up with my kids, drinking coffee, and I get a call on my cell phone from a 202 number in DC, right? I say, okay, it worked. Like, something happened, and then
Someone's calling me.
And then I get a call, and I've said this before, so it's not really private information. And he says, Christopher, this is Mark Meadows, the chief of staff. I'm calling on behalf of the president. He saw your segment on Tucker Carlson. He's tasked me to take immediate action.
Wow.
And I said, holy, like this is the real deal. So, and then from there, I thought, I don't know the bureaucratic process. I think it's going to go through a process and a study committee and the typical DC process where they want to do something, and then maybe 6 months later it happens. Within 72 hours, the OMB director, Russ Vought, who I saw today and is an amazing person, issued a letter basically saying none of this ever again. And then 3 weeks after that, the full executive order signed by the president.
Did this ban? So what did it ban specifically? What did Trump ban?
So it's interesting. It's thought of, I think, accurately as a ban on critical race theory trainings in the federal government. But the executive order actually doesn't say critical race theory anywhere in it. What they've done is really smart. They, instead of saying ban critical race theory, well, what is critical race theory? The critical race theorists and the kind of progressives who kind of espouse that ideology change language at an amazingly rapid rate. They throw up a term. You can't debate it. You can't talk about it. You can't think about it. It's so fast. And these languages, they burn, right? Like they're going to toss up, some new phrase.
Wimixon.
It's persuasive for a quick minute, and then everyone hates it, and then they just recycle it with something new. So what they said is we're going to categorize divisive concepts. And the divisive concepts are really simple. You can't stereotype, scapegoat, or demean people on the basis of their sex or their race. That's it.
That's already illegal.
That's already illegal. It's already illegal, but they basically codified it in within the executive agencies. They gave a directive saying anything that falls under these divisive concepts, these categories of stereotyping, scapegoat, and demeaning. And then they did something really brilliant. They said not only in the federal agencies and the military, but if you want to do business with the federal government, if you're a large corporation, most of them are large corporations, you can no longer do this anywhere in your business because we don't want to work with people who stereotype, scapegoat, and demean.
So basically what they're getting rid of, it's like sending white people on retreats, I guess, was one of the things on your website. They had all the white men go and like deconstruct their stuff or identity or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the most kind of egregious examples was the Sandia National Laboratories. This is the laboratory that designs our nuclear arsenal.
Right.
So this is a serious thing. It's not like the Department of, dietary guidelines somewhere deep in the health sector. I mean, these people design our nukes that protect the United States of America. This is a serious thing. And they had basically, from the directives from the very top, they had said, we need to address our white privilege within the national laboratories. And we've hired a diversity training firm, literally called, this is the firm that contracted with the federal agency, White Men as Full Diversity Partners. And they specialize in what they did for the trainers here. They took white male executives, they put them on a 3-day retreat at a kind of luxury resort in New Mexico. And they set up this kind of grueling process where they were saying you have to deconstruct your white male identity. They put up on the board and had people they kind of fished for people to make associations. They said, well, white male culture is associated with mass killings, the KKK, MAGA hats, white supremacy. These are all of the kind of evils that are lurking within your identity to the top nuclear weapons engineers in the world. And then we're going to spend the next 3 days, deconstructing that identity and forcing you to confront your white privilege, your male privilege, your heterosexual privilege. And then at the end of it, they had them write letters to these kind of imaginary women and people of color much along the lines of a kind of Chinese struggle session. They're saying you need to now. People are writing these grown men, being kind of bullied into writing, "I am sorry for my privilege." It's embarrassing and it's completely outrageous.
I don't remember where I was reading this. Maybe you guys might remember where they were talking about the Chinese manipulation technique for POWs.
Oh, yeah.
What they would do is they wouldn't ever have them come out and be extremely overt. They would say, if you want to eat, you have to just simply write that the United States is not perfect.
Little things.
Little tiny things. And then they'd be like, oh, well, that's fine. I mean, of course it's not perfect. Then the next time they would say, tell us one thing you wish you could change about the United States. And that was the way they opened the door into getting them to saying, well, I've already said that. I can certainly say this.
And the amazing thing is that they do it with social pressure. That's really the kind of most powerful part of this, is that if you don't comply, you are somehow bad or you endorse some bad thing. So people's fear, a lot of these folks in the government agencies are middle-aged people with families waiting for a pension. They don't want to rock the boat. So they just do it. And as soon as it's like a sales technique. Hey man, can I stop you for a second?
Sure.
As soon as you get the first yes, I've hooked you in.
You don't even need a yes.
That's like a sales technique from, I did door-to-door sales when I was a teenager. Like they always get the first yes, right?
You don't need a yes.
You don't even need a yes.
I used to do street fundraising. You know what I would do? What? So they do these trainings for people on like how to stop people. Hey, do you have a minute to talk about the environment? No, I don't do that. You know what I would do? I'd walk up and go, hey, and stick my hand out.
Yeah.
And they would immediately grab my hand and I'd shake it. I'm here to talk to you about why
it's a physical yes.
Yeah.
As soon as they reach down to shake, and everyone does. Every person will shake your hand. They can't leave while you're shaking your hands. And you got them for about 10 seconds and you say, now let me show you this. And you put the clipboard in their hand.
It's the foundation of your success.
Yeah, man.
That's the strong handshake.
Well, it's not about strong. It's that the really good fundraisers would say, shake their hand, and then before you're done, you're handing them the clipboard. They grab it, and now they're holding your stuff and do not take it back.
So you're like raising money for the environment
Greenpeace.
or for Greenpeace.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Among many other companies.
Yeah.
And so this is it. If they're holding your clipboard and they try giving it back to you, you just cross your arms, or you don't want to cross your arms. It's defensive. So you just like hold your hands together and act like you don't realize what they're trying to do.
But it's very hard to not shake the hand. And so if you're in a room with all of your peers and high status people, and you're in a government agency, and everyone says you have to get up and identify yourself as a white male and say that you're here to deconstruct your identity, it's very hard to just say I'm going to sit down and I'm not going to do it.
Right.
So and then the critical race theorists, to their credit, they've constructed the argument in a really ingenious way. It's almost constructed like an intellectual mousetrap, where if you dissent, if you disagree, embedded in their argument, if you disagree, that's an admission of guilt. So, well, you don't agree with this? Well, that's your white privilege.
Right.
That's your white fragility. That's your internalized racial dominance or oppression. So they've created a category that is psychological in nature, that is new, that is distinct from old forms of manipulation and even unconscious bias, right? I mean, what is unconscious bias? Are they preferences, experiences? Can you measure it? Is it valid? A lot of real questions about that. But, lost in that is we've moved from a society, to our credit, that has moved away from conscious bias, discrimination, and racism. That's a part of the American history. To now we're worried about deep in the recesses of your subconscious, is there some hidden preference that we can measure and try to change? We're not doing kind of it's not even like behavior control. It's a form of kind of social control. It's a form of kind of deep kind of psychological conditioning, and it's no good.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. So come back to check us out when we go live. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and we are also available on all podcast platforms for free if you want to listen to us there. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all next time.